Yes. What's going on, everybody? It's Tuesday night. It's past the Dana White Contender Series. I've got a cold beverage, 10 o'clock Central Time. I think you know what that means, you guys. It means it's time for Just the Tip with me, your host, Uncle Weezy. We're going to break down all 12 fights on this UFC Vegas 59 card. We're going to finish with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week, and we're going to figure out a way to stack cash tickets like flapjacks on this card and move on to the next, because I think we've got this card and two more before we have a 1 week break. We are in the midst of it, you guys, a 12-week stretch of UFC action, no breaks, pretty much the entire summer that we're hitting it here. Going week to week to week with no breaks. And now we're adding in Dana White's Contender Series on top of all that. Extremely busy around the lab here, but it's always busy because there's always UFC action. And when there's UFC action, that means your Uncle Weezy's busting his ass trying to find angles so that we can stack cash tickets like flapjacks on this card. Last week was a solid week. Couple of heartbreakers, though. Up 2.5 units. The time props that I bet worked out for the most part. Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week fell flat once again. Dante O'Mays. What a dog shit performance that was, man. I mean, talk about letting somebody off the hook. He busts his orbital. Abdel Wahab is covering up, cowering against the fence, and Mays walks away to the center of the cage and does nothing for 30 seconds. It was a sight to behold, but you bank it, you put it in the bank, you say this guy has no fucking fight IQ, and we learn from it and we move on. But yeah, that was rough. What else was rough? Oh yeah. The Mays Abdel Wahab fight somehow not finishing inside the distance when Abdel Wahab had Mays on skates in the first, and when basically Mays had him finished in the second. Neither guy could finish, and then the fight went all the way. So that time prop didn't work out. But we hit the over 1.5 on the Blood Diamond Kosi fight. We hit the fight doesn't go to decision on the Smith Ankalaev fight. We hit the Pantoja by submission bet. Wound up being a good night. Like I said, up 2.5 units. Dante O'Mays was kind of like the lone setback. The greasy 4-leg parlay cashed the first 3 legs. The Kosi money line, the Negamarianu money line. The fight doesn't go to decision for Ankalaev Smith. Fight starts round 2 for Lewis Pavlovich. Did not happen. It wasn't even close to happening. Maybe a quick stoppage, but I'm not mad at it. I mean, like, Pavlovich had Lewis in all kinds of trouble. And when dudes hit that hard, those referees, their job is to keep the fighters safe, and he had to step in. It wound up being too quick, but what are you going to do? So we move on to the next week. We keep our eyes looking forward. We'll celebrate last week's win, but we can't celebrate for too long. We have too much work to do, everybody. Let's see what you guys are up to here in the chat. The first one in the room, all the way from Athens, Greece. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Chris Kalanzis checking in, saying, let's stack cash like flapjacks. Let's go, man. My guy, Go Flamingo in the room saying the Flamingo abides. The Uncle Weez abides, my friend, too. Let's go. We got UFC Egg in the room saying, Mays is dead to me. Dead. I can't believe I didn't hedge with Hamdi decision plus 650. Mays just made the list. Look out, Dante O'Mays. You just made the list, and that is not a good place to be. Let's go, Uncle Weezy, says UFC Egg. Let's get it, man. Prince of Mischief saying, what's up, Uncle Weezy? I'm happy to see that you slayed the bookies last week. Mays sucks. Let's go for 5+ units this week. And then we got Level Up saying, oi, let's get those bags, Uncle Weezy. Let's get it, Level Up. Thanks for checking in. We got my guy, Victor DeJesus, in the room saying, oi, yes. What's up, Weezy? What's up, chat? Let's cash tickets this week. Let's get it, man. We got Home Wrecking Knee Knocker saying, what's the ass shaving this week? So me and the bookies know who to fade. You got to wait until the end of the show to find that out. But we finish with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week every week. Do you realize that the UFC paid Dante O'Mays to throw that fight? Don't you? Foolish of you to think the UFC is going to give all that money away. LOL, you silly degenerate. Okay. And fade the ass shaving over the past few months. And you know how many units you'd be up? Lots of units. And you see what he did there? He got the instead of the dollar, or instead of an S, he put a $ instead of the S. That's really cool. When you have your 13th birthday party, you should show your friends what you did here, and they're all going to be really impressed. But maybe get to bed now, otherwise your mom's going to put you in the corner and give you a spanking. So time to head to bed, little boy. Let's go. Us adults, we got work to do here. My guy JSJ in the room saying, happy Smiling Sam fight week to everybody in the room. Tonight might be his last ever Just the Tip appearance. You know what, JSJ? I think it actually is. I think the UFC had said that this was going to be Alvey's last fight, win or lose. And I think that this dude has something like 52 professional fights. So long career. A ton of fights at the UFC level, and he's getting up there in age, so it's probably going to be time for him to hang it up pretty soon. But he might have one more bullet left in that chamber, one more right hook on the chin to see that one more Smiling Sam knockout. We're going to have to wait and find out. And JSJ saying, hopefully, yeah. You know, and Sam's had a great career. He's had a ton of fights at the UFC level. Hopefully he saves some money. Hopefully he doesn't need to do this anymore. Because the guy's a super likable guy. He could probably get behind the mic, call fights. He could do a lot of things without having to get his face punched in a cage. But yeah, man, he's a legend, dude. Smiling Sam's a legend. So I mean, it's good to see him back in that cage. Hopefully he makes a really good account of himself here in his last UFC performance. Addicted to combat, my guy Patrick in the room saying, time for my Tuesday night cigar, watching Unk breakdown fights. What's up, dude? And also watching those tough 30 fights to prepare for this week was painful. I was right there with you. I did all that work last week, Patrick. It was not fun. We got DFS by the numbers saying, happy Priscilla catch a cheating fight week. Let's go, Brady. Let's get it. MMA's biggest fan 23 saying lots of parlay opportunities this card. In my opinion, lots of wide lines. And when you get those wide lines, you got to pick out the ones you think you have the best chance. Maybe you can parlay them, find some plus money somewhere. Not a bad way to look at it. Andy G saying, oi, let's hope this weekend is as good as tonight's incredible DWCS fights. Let's stack them high, Unk. You know, I didn't even get a chance to see any of the DWCS fights tonight. Was just getting prepared for the show. Can't wait to watch those, though, after we're done here breaking down all 12 of these fights on the UFC Vegas 59 card. My guy MMA Propaholic in the room saying, oi. Brian Lockhart saying, oi. We got Travis M saying, oi, where's my uncle? Right here, baby, right here. We got Propaholic saying, I can't believe I might have 3 women's MMA bets. Yeah, man, there's 4 fights on this card. It's 33% of the card. Not something you see very often. But I'm seeing some spots, too, in the women's fights, and I'm kind of trying to remind myself to tread lightly. These women's fights are super high variance. You don't want to ever be laying juice and feeling confident about it. It's one of the biggest ways to get yourself rinsed by the bookies. Mr. D saying, oi, Unc Weezy, what's up, dude? Tony is in the room saying, won some nice money from Contender Series. Hope everyone else did, too. Absolutely happy to hear that. My guy Ansav in the room. Absolute G. Respect, Uncle Weezy. It's good to have you in here, Ansav. Justin Villegas said, I tailgate and got hyped for Weezy show with watching Kickboxer. Nice, dude. Kickboxer is so awesome. One of my favorite movies of all time. My guy Andy Gonzalez, MMA, I believe all the way from Spain, if I know who this Andy Gonzalez is, saying, oi, what's up, Andy? It's good to see you in here, brother. Andy G saying, smash the like button. Headley one saying, everyone talking about the Nate versus Hamzat when they should be talking about Fat Collier versus Huggy Bear. Stay tuned. We're going to be doing a 3-hour telethon-esque balls deep breakdown for that fight on the MMA Engine YouTube channel, where you won't have to, or maybe what we'll do is we'll like take up a collection so that they can both go to Weight Watchers. But that is going to be a wild fight, a fun fight. Can't wait to talk about it. Huggy Bear, super fun to watch. Fat Collier's on a fucking run right now, too. So that'll be a fun little heavyweight fight. Can't wait to break that one down when it's time. September 10th. So it's all just downtime between now and September 10th, man. Cuban Assassin saying, what it do, Weezy? Let's get that cheddar. We got to send the orderlies to get that tanning bed out of Merkley's house. He looks like a catcher's mitts. Dan the Tan Mirgliata. Jeff, my guy Jeff, a Chicago local, saying, oi, shout outs to Village Roadhouse and Skokie, who falsely accused us of doing coke at their bar and have a shitty lava cake. Oh, man. That is hilarious. Andy G saying Murgliata looking extra leathery. He really is, man. He looks like an 80-year-old down in Florida, man. Headley one saying DWC has 4 out of 5 finishes after Dana got pissed last week with 1 finish. Hell yeah, man. Mushroom saying, "Oi, yes, what's up, Uncle Weezy? Let's stack them high." MMA Propaholic, what's up, Brandon? Ass shaving prediction equals Quinlan for Prince of Mischief. Dude, Quinlan hits hard, dude. JSJ saying, any thoughts on James Krause retirement? Good to see someone bow out at the right time. Yeah, I kind of felt like, Krause was doing so well as a coach, and probably I don't know if he owns Glory MMA and Fitness. I'm guessing he does. He is the head coach there. I don't know if he owns the gym or not, but it's good to see people when they're in the midst of their fighting career, like James Krause was, look for other opportunities, because there's no way to know how that career is going to end. The fight game, the hurt business, it's unpredictable. It's a really hard way to make a living. So we saw James kind of pivot during his career towards coaching, and he's done such a great job of it. There's really no reason for him to go in that cage and get his face bashed in anymore. He can coach other people to go get their faces bashed in and make a lot of money and give a lot back to the sport that's been so good to him. So yeah, man, good to see. I didn't know that James Krause had retired, but man, congratulations, the James Krause. Great MMA career, and hopefully an even better career as a coach and a mentor to young fighters ahead of him. Big ups, James Krause. Jeff K saying DWCS was insane tonight. Maybe the best yet. Can't wait to watch it after the show, man. MMA Propaholic saying Mushroom, what's good? Fear saying oi. Yes, oi. That's right, Fear. And Mr. Jingle saying, let's go, Weezy. We got Prince of Mischief saying I played Egger plus 124. I'm having doubts as the week goes on, and now I'm stressed. Convince me I made a good decision, Weezy. We're going to talk about that fight. I think it's a very, very close fight. Bryan taking notes. What's up, Bryan? NHJ saying, oi. We got Couch Warrior saying, what's good, gang? What's up, Bunk? What's up, Couch Warrior? Good to see you in here. We got Prince of Mischief 2225 saying, hey, Weezy, I remember a while ago you said that you and the guys at MMA Engine were going to do a drunk breakdown of fights. Is that still happening? I would love it. Yes, I would love to do that for we all get wasted and then do a balls deep breakdown on the Huggy Bear Fat Collier fight. Would be so much fun to do that. That is in the plans. I'm going to try to get it together with Lou Betya, with Brady, and with Monk. It would be a lot of fun, man. And just Justin Viega saying Chuck Norris was the only one who came up units on Maze. That's right. Well, Chuck Norris can do that, man. He's the man. And Mr. Jingle saying UFC 280 drunk breakdown. Let's do it. Robert Sella saying I'm officially a Wahhabi after Hamdi's performance. And yeah, and credit to Hamdi. Short notice, only 3 mixed martial arts fights as a pro. He went the full 3. He had the conditioning to do it. He was huffing and puffing a little bit early, but he fought through that tiredness. Didn't have a massive adrenaline dump, and fought through a couple of bad spots. Used his wrestling to win minutes. You don't have to be high skill at the heavyweight division to be able to put together a decent career there. And this guy clearly does have some wrestling skill. So yeah, big ups. Hamdi Abdelwahab getting your first UFC win, even if it was at the expense of Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. But here we go, you guys. We've got a lot of work to do. So let me wet my whistle here, and then we will get into the first fight of the night, which is going to be Mayra Bueno Silva versus Stephanie Egger. And I will get my notes ready. As you know, it's Cory McKenna fight week, you guys. So we get to talk about bad fight IQ decisions and how important they are to making your UFC bets. Don't bet on the fighters that have bad fight IQ. Like, for instance, if you have somebody's orbital broken and they're cowering on the fence, making big faces, saying, oh my God, I don't want to be here anymore. What you're supposed to do there is go and finish the guy by throwing more strikes. What you're not supposed to do is back up to the center of the cage and let that person actually get better and then wind up taking you down and beating you up for the rest of the fight. So it's Cory McKenna fight week. So we have to keep a special mindfulness here when it comes to the fight IQ of the fighters that we're planning to bet on. Now, first fight, Mayra Bueno Silva versus Cory versus Stephanie Egger. So I've got my screen shared. Let me just make sure that I do. And let's see here. I do not. So we are going to share that screen for you guys. And we've got the numbers up here. Let's get it up there, you guys. And I'm going to get my notes up. And Mayra Bueno Silva versus Stephanie Egger. The measurables are even here. We got Mayra Bueno Silva's 3 years younger, and Stephanie Egger has a 2-inch reach advantage. Both of these fighters are the same height, and they're both orthodox fighters. Shoot box Diego Lima for Silva. We got Buddy Jim out of Switzerland for Egger. It's Mayra Bueno Silva who's got the experience advantage here with 2 more pro fights, 19 more minutes in the pro cage, and 6 more months as a pro. Silva also has the UFC experience advantage here, as we can see, with 4 more fights and about 42 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to the finish stats and durability, I'm giving that edge to Egger. Egger's got the better finish rate in their pro fights. She's finishing at an 86% rate, and she's an equal opportunity finisher, getting as many by submission as she is by getting them by knockout. While we got a 75% finish rate here for Silva, 13% by knockout, 63% by submission. Neither fighter has ever been finished in 2 pro losses, so they're both pretty durable, but not a lot of losses between the two of them, so not much to talk about there. In terms of the striking, I got to give the advantage to Silva here. Silva, even though she doesn't have eye-catching metrics, she's clearly the better technical striker with way more power. Egger comes from a judo background, and she lands less than 2 significant strikes per minute, and she spends over 73% of her fights thus far in the UFC in control time positions. So while this fight's on the feet, Silva's going to be the far more comfortable and way more dangerous fighter. But when it comes to the grappling, I got to give the advantage to Egger here. Stephanie is a higher-level grappler with the better pedigree. An under-23 judo champ in Europe, Egger has got some great throws, trips, sweeps, and reaps, and she does great work with ground and pound when she's on top, and she will be the far more likely fighter here to go for takedowns. Egger has attempted 12 takedowns in 3 fights, while Silva has only attempted 1 takedown in 7 fights. So Egger should be the more likely party to initiate the grappling exchanges and win minutes there. Egger should be able to avoid the submission attempts of Silva with her grappling pedigree. Neither fighter has ever been submitted as a pro. And then when it comes to the strength of schedule, I got to give a slight edge to Stephanie Egger here, according to the metrics, that is. Egger's got the better ratio overall while having the better wins in both ratio and total fights. But see, neither one of these ladies is beating great competition here with a won-to-loss ratio of 1, 0.91 for Silva, and the total fights is sitting right around 5. So Egger's got a 2-inch reach advantage, the finish stats, the grappling, and the slight strength to schedule advantage. While Silva's 3 years younger, she's got the experience advantage and she's got the striking advantage. And she's also very dangerous off her back. 4 of those 5 career submission wins for Mayra Bueno Silva coming by way of armbar. So both fighters do really good work in the clinch. With Mayra Bueno Silva, it's the dirty boxing. With Stephanie Egger, she's good at getting the fight to the ground from the clinch, being a good judo player. Sweeps, trips, reaps, like I mentioned. And, she's got a really good whizzer kick, too. So I guess it's about which fighter is going to be able to thrive in their spots. The spot for Stephanie Egger is on top on the mat. For Bueno Silva, it's going to be being at distance here. And Mayra Bueno Silva's takedown defense thus far in the UFC is sitting right at 69.7%. She's getting taken down more than 2 times for 15 minutes, giving up 36% of her UFC cage time, getting controlled, and losing out of the 40%, over 40% of the UFC cage time that has been spent in control time positions. She's losing about 90% of those control time positions. So Stephanie Egger should be the better minute winner on the ground here. And as we can see, 47.38% of her fights have been on the ground receiving and 26.5% with her on top. So, it's reasonable to expect that this fight takes place in grappling positions, whether it's in the clinch or on the ground, probably more than half of this fight, in which case Stephanie Egger is the better schooled grappler. Mayra Bueno Silva is going to be throwing up arm bars, but other than that, I just don't really see her having a lot of success or even being able to snatch up a submission here. It's a very close fight. Silva will be the better striker. Egger should be the better wrestler and minute winner in the grappling exchanges. And in terms of violence bets, we were looking at this earlier on probability, you guys. Over here, we can see, oops. 5 of their 10 fights have finished inside the distance, and we're only paying 37.74% implied probability for the fight doesn't go to decision. It's sitting at plus 165. So good little green numbers here showing that there's some value in a violence bet here. Both of these ladies are really, really good finishers when they win, but neither one of them has been finished in a loss. So I'm staying away from the time props here. And in terms of a pick, oh, God, it's so hard to pick this fight. I don't have any bets on it yet, but I will go. I'm going to go with Stephanie Egger being the minute winner here and edging out a razor close decision. I think fight goes to split decision could be an interesting pick for this fight because I really do think that it's going to be a very close fight. Next fight, you guys, it is Cory McKenna fight week. We've got Cory McKenna coming in as a minus 230 favorite. That makes me want to puke. And then we got Miranda Granger, the underdog, plus 195. Fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at plus 200 here. We've got Miranda Granger is going to have a massive measurables advantage here. And by the way, if you guys want to follow along with the stats at home, you can download these stats for free in the description of the video. Also have the link to probability in the description of this video, the link to Stat Diggers, and the link to all these stats that you can download for free and follow along. The Granger has got a huge measurables advantage in this fight, as we can see. Even though McKenna is 7 years younger, she's 23 years old, the Granger's 30. Miranda's got a 4-inch height advantage and a 10-inch reach advantage. They're both orthodox fighters. When it comes to the experience, I've got it even. Granger's got 1 more pro fight, 6 more months as a pro, but McKenna has 35 more minutes in the pro cage and 12 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to the finish stats and durability, Granger is the better finisher, and it's McKenna who's been more durable. As Granger has the better finish rate as a pro, 85% for Granger in her wins. As we can see down here, 71% by sub, 14% by knockout. Well, it's a 50% finish rate for Cory McKenna overall, 33% by knockout, 17% by sub. Neither fighter has ever finished a win at the UFC level. Granger has been finished in 1 of 2 pro losses, and it was by submission. McKenna has never been finished, so I'd say McKenna has the durability advantage here. In the striking, I'm going to give the advantage to Granger. Neither lady's much of a striker here. Most of them, both of these ladies really thrive in the control time positions. But McKenna got pieced up by Elise Reed. But it's Granger who has by far the better metrics at the UFC level. Granger's more accurate. She's 48.5% accurate compared to 42% for McKenna. She's got a better significant strike differential, positive 0.27 compared to negative 0.07 for McKenna. Is better defensively by far, 60% striking defense for Granger, while it's 46% for McKenna. Add to that fact that Miranda has a 10-inch reach advantage, and this should be Granger all day on the feet. And in the grappling, definitely giving the advantage to McKenna here. Grappling is both ladies' strong suit. However, according to the UFC metrics, it should be McKenna who is the superior minute winner in the grappling exchanges. She's 44% on her 9 takedown attempts and outcontrols her opponents in control time positions 40% to 13%. McKenna has also shown 71% takedown defense on 7 attempts against, while Granger only has 40% takedown defense on 5 attempts against. So, excuse me, guys. So if one of these 2 fighters has the advantage in terms of who can choose whether this fight takes place in the striking or grappling realm, it will probably be McKenna. And in the strength of schedule, given the advantage to Granger here, Granger's fought, beaten, and lost to the better win-loss ratio competition and more experienced competition at the UFC level. So in summary, McKenna has the pro and the UFC cage time advantage, the durability advantage, and the grappling advantage here, while Granger has a huge measurables advantage, one more pro fight, a few more minutes or a few more months in the game, the finish stats, striking, and strength of schedule advantage. So she's got a lot of advantages here. She's got more fights. She's much bigger. She's going to be able to use that size in the striking exchanges to win minutes there. She's fought the better brand of competition thus far. I mean, she's fought Amanda Lemos, while the best wins for Cory McKenna at the UFC level are Kay Hansen, who's not here anymore, and Vanessa Demopoulos. So, and Demopoulos was a good matchup for Cory McKenna because Demopoulos isn't much of a striker. So this line is just, it's ridiculous in my opinion. How anyone could lay minus 230 on Cory McKenna. And let's talk about something else here. When we look at the props for this fight, we see that the fight goes to decision is sitting up at minus 260. And I think it might even be more than that right now. So we're basically saying it's almost a 75% chance. It's actually minus 260. So yeah, it's a, what do we got it at? 72% chance that this fight goes to decision according to the bookies, right? So if you're betting Cory McKenna, you're thinking that she probably wins by decision because this fight probably goes to decision at least 3 out of 4 times, maybe even 4 out of 5. But in order to win decisions, you have to win minutes. And in order to win minutes, what do you have to do? You got to make good decisions. You can't be fucking making stupid decisions. You can't be voluntarily engaging in parts of the game where you're worse than your opponent, which is exactly what Cory McKenna did last time. Cory McKenna was a minus 300 favorite against Elise Reed. And Elise Reed is a white belt on the ground. She has absolutely no ground game. Now with Granger's got a legit ground game, and she's very tall for the division, so she's going to be very difficult to take down. Tall girls are tough to take down. They can post up a lot of the time. And then not only that, on the feet, she's going to have a 10-inch reach advantage over Cory McKenna. So I'm not even sure where Cory McKenna is better. The people that are saying that her grappling is better, I'm fine with that. But in order for you to win minutes in the grappling, you have to go out there and get takedowns, don't you? You have to have, the fight IQ to be able to understand what it is where you're better than your opponent and what you need to do in order to take advantage of where you're better than your opponent. Cory McKenna doesn't have that ability, and her coaching appears to be dog shit. I mean, we can only really judge it based on what we've seen in the cage. And what we've seen in the cage has been very bad decision-making and, frankly, giving away of what will be the easiest UFC fight she ever has. She's already lost the easiest fight that she ever had. So at the UFC level. And it's just going to get harder from here. So anyone can lay minus 230 on somebody who's a hobbit, who's way too small for the division and no striking and the inability to be able to wrestle consistently. How do you think she's going to cover minus 230? I have no idea, but good luck to you. I have a bet on Miranda Granger. I bet 1 unit on her at plus 202 a little bit earlier in the week. I think this is going to be a very close fight. I don't see any way Cory McKenna goes out there and dominates Miranda Granger. And in order to cover a minus 230, she has to dominate. And she's going to be worse in the clinch, and she's going to be worse in the stand-up exchanges. And she's already proven that she doesn't have the wherewithal to figure out when she needs to wrestle. So, yeah, I think Cory McKenna can win this fight, but I'm betting on Miranda Granger, and I'm going to go ahead and pick her just because I know what I've seen from Cory McKenna. She's going to have to prove to me that she's not a complete fucking dumbass. And her coaches are going to have to prove to me going forward that they can figure out a game plan to make this young lady look better than she looked in her last fight, which was she looked fucking terrible. She looked like she had no idea how to win a fight. And I can't bet on somebody like that, and I fucking refuse to lay juice on somebody like that. So that's where I'm at on that. I'm picking Miranda Granger to win this fight by decision because I'm pissed off at Cory McKenna. Next fight, Josh Quinlan versus Jason Witt. Very interesting fight here, you guys. We've got Josh Quinlan, the much younger man. The measurables advantage goes to Quinlan here, as we can see that he's 6 years younger. He's 2 inches taller than Jason Witt, and he's got a 2-inch reach advantage. Both of these guys are orthodox fighters, but obviously it's Jason Witt who has the experience advantage here with 21 more pro fights, 170 more minutes in the pro cage, 6 more years as a pro fighter, and Jason has been the more active fighter as well. Jason also has a UFC experience advantage with 4 more UFC fights and 30 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to the finish stats and durability, that's Quinlan all day. Quinlan's got a 100% finish rate in 5 pro wins, 3 knockouts, 2 submissions, while Witt has a 58% finish rate in 19 pro wins. Jason finished one of his 2 UFC wins, but it was overturned. Jason finished one of his two UFC wins, and Quinlan finished his opponent by knockout quickly on the Dana White Contender Series, but it was overturned to a no contest due to him pissing hot for anabolic steroids. So this guy went in there, got a quick knockout against Logan Pause, was it? Logan Urban. And Logan took that fight, I think, on 2 days' notice, 3 days' notice. So, I mean, I don't know we didn't learn anything about Josh Quinlan in that fight other than he's a juicer and he can beat somebody on 2 days' notice. Prior to that, the fights against Dallas Jennings, Joe Borshig, Pete Keepers. He's fought some pretty big dudes. Borshig, a big dude. Pete Keepers, over an 80-inch reach, if I remember correctly. Dallas Jennings looked like a pretty solid all-around fighter. So he's fought some decent regional scene competition here, but it's obviously Jason Witt, who's been at the UFC level longer and been fighting a much better competition. But Witt has been knocked out in all 3 of his UFC losses, and he's been finished in all 8 of his pro losses. So you have to give Quinlan the durability advantage in this fight. When it comes to the striking, I mean, it's Quinlan. Quinlan has vicious stand-up. He throws really hard low leg kicks. He's got tight boxing. He throws with power. Witt's not going to want to stand in front of this guy at all. Witt's metrics aren't terrible in the stand-up. He has negative 0.37 significant strike differential, throws about 0.5 less significant strike attempts per minute in comparison to his opponents. The real problem is the 50% striking defense, combined with the fact that he's absorbing a knockdown on 3.75% of the significant strikes that he's absorbing. So Witt's been knocked down 3 times in 5 UFC fights, and he's been knocked out as many times at this level. Quinlan's going to be the far more dangerous while this fight is on the feet. Grappling, given the advantage to Witt, though. Witt's done a fantastic job of winning minutes with his wrestling and top control. Witt has 56% control time and only allowing 3.34% control time against. So that's almost a 17-to-1 ratio of control time for to control time against. Witt has gotten 14 of his 29 UFC takedown attempts, and he's averaging 6.89 takedowns per 15 minutes and just under 1 submission attempt per 15 minutes. Quinlan's very dangerous on the feet, and I've seen him get taken down on the regional scene, but he always quickly reverses position, and he's got great top control and ground and pound in his own right. Witt's going to need to use his wrestling to win minutes and accumulate top control while delivering ground and pound to have a chance to win this fight, and we know he has that capability. All right. When it comes to the strength of schedule here, it's obviously Witt. Witt has 21 more professional fights, so obviously he's fought, beaten, and lost to the far superior competition in comparison to Quinlan. In summary, Quinlan has the measurables advantage, the finish stats advantage, the durability advantage, the striking advantage, while Witt has the experience advantage, the grappling advantage, and the strength of schedule advantage. So this is probably the easiest fight to break down on the card. Either Jason Witt's going to land 10 takedowns and get 13 minutes of control time and win a decision, or Josh Quinlan is going to win just 1 moment and end this fight. But we have to keep in mind here, this is a wide line. Josh Quinlan right now sitting around minus 235 on Bet Online, so that's a wide line. In addition to that, this guy only has 5 pro fights, and he's already tested positive for steroids, so we know he's been cheating. And he got right back in there because I think that, I don't even know if the UFC cares that this kid was cheating. They caught him cheating. He got a 9-month suspension, and now he's back almost immediately after the suspension is over. So, and they're giving him the least durable guy in the entire division. So it's just kind of setting up to be like, Josh Quinlan should absolutely murder this dude, but we have to keep in mind that Quinlan, he's only got 6 professional fights, that he's been cheating, that Jason Witt is an excellent wrestler, an excellent minute winner in the grappling, but it's really hard to see Witt surviving more than 30 to 60 seconds on the feet without absorbing one big shot. And one big shot from Josh Quinlan means that Jason Witt's going down and getting knocked out. So I have to pick Josh Quinlan to win this fight by knockout in the very first round, win it violently. But I'm not running to the window to bet it just because, there's reasons to like Witt here. He's got that grappling advantage. He's got that experience advantage. He's got the strength to schedule advantage. And this is Quinlan's debut, that he might fade under the bright lights. It's only his 7th pro fight. He's got a lot to learn yet still. So I'm picking Josh Quinlan. I'm picking to win this one quickly and violently, but I am treading very lightly on this one, you guys. The next fight is going to be Bryan Battle versus Takashi Sato. Let me get back to my notes here for a second and just check something out real quick here. And let's see. And okay, cool. Let's go. Did I bring that up? Yeah. So Bryan Battle versus Takashi Sato. The measurables advantage here is going to go to Bryan Battle. Bryan Battle is moving from 185 down to 170 for the first time in his career. So Bryan Battle's a big favorite in this fight, you guys, but we got to keep an eye on this dude on the scales because we don't know what he's going to look like making this cut for the first time. He's 6'1" with a 77-inch reach, so he's already a big dude. So cutting down to 171 is going to be a big deal, and I would caution anybody that's thinking of making a big bet on Bryan Battle to maybe wait and see him on the scales first because I don't see this line getting much wider in anytime soon because it already is a little bit wide, and we'll talk about why here. Bryan is 5 years younger, though. He's only 27 to Sato's 32. He's 3 inches taller, and he's got a 4-inch reach advantage. So this is going to be his first attempt at making 170, so he'll be the bigger dude here, but we're going to have to keep an eye out for how he looks on the scales. Southpaw versus orthodox matchup. Sato is the southpaw, and Southpaw loves that left right down the pipe. The 1-2 is Sato's best weapon, and Battle's power weapons are going to be open for business as well, and he throws a lot of kicks with his back legs. So I do see these guys landing power shots here. The experience advantage goes to Sato. 12 more professional fights, almost 100 more minutes in the pro cage, and almost 6 more years as a pro fighter. Takashi also has the UFC experience advantage with 3 more professional fights and over 20 more minutes in the UFC cage. The finish stats and durability, I'm giving a slight edge here to Sato. Both guys are great finishers as pros. Battle has a 71% finish rate and 7 pro wins, mostly by submission. And Sato has an 86% finish rate and 15 pro wins. These are all mostly by KO. Sato has finished both of his UFC wins by knockout, and Battle finished one of his 2 UFC wins inside the distance by submission. Sato has been finished in 4 out of 5 pro losses and in 2 out of 3 UFC losses, and Battle's been finished in his only pro loss, so neither of these guys is what I would call a picture of durability here. In terms of the striking, this is going to be a volume versus power situation here. Sato is the low-volume power striker, while Battle is the minute-winning volume guy. Battle has a 2.52 positive significant strike differential, while Sato's is negative 1.88. Battle throws 4.89 more significant strikes per minute than his opponents, and Sato 1.59 less. So it's pretty clear Battle should be winning minutes in the stand-up by keeping distance with his kicks and out-voluming Sato. And Sato will most likely be relying on landing a big straight left down the pipe. The grappling advantage, I'm giving to Battle here. Sato hasn't grappled much at the UFC level. If we go down here to the grappling stats, we can see them. He's only attempted 2 takedowns in 5 UFC fights as Takashi Sato, and he's been out-controlled by his opponents 28% to 2.6%. Battle has attempted as many takedown attempts as his opponents have. He's gotten 2 less, but he's still managed to out-control his opponents 21% to 18%. So he's got decent grappling efficiency. Both of these guys don't have great takedown defense, so whichever guy goes to the wrestling first here has a chance to win minutes there, as both guys are allowing more than 2 takedowns per 15 minutes. It's Battle who has 9 takedown attempts in 2 fights, while Sato only has 2 takedown attempts in 5 fights. So I have to think that Battle is the better skills to win minutes in the grappling exchanges in this fight. Strength of schedule advantage, I got to go with Sato here as we get these numbers on the screen. Not even close, really. Sato's fought, beaten, and lost to the better win-loss ratio and more experienced competition. But in summary, Battle's got the measurables advantages when it comes to the size and the striking and the grappling advantage. How do they relate to their UFC fights? Sato is the southpaw, and he has the experience, finish stats, and strength of schedule advantages here. One of the bets that the prop template really liked this week was the Battle Sato fight doesn't go to decision, which is sitting at plus 125. So the implied probability of a plus 125 line is 44.44%. Now, this is a welterweight fight. So welterweight fights finish inside the distance that are 3 rounds 48.62% of the time. So we're getting a 4.18% edge on the books there when we compare the long-term benchmark to the implied probability of the line that we're getting. In addition to that, we got 4 of 5 fights for Sato have finished inside the distance, and 1 of 2 for Bryan Battle at the UFC level. So that's 5 of 7 combined fights that have finished inside the distance. So it's a smaller sample size, but when we compare that 71.4% combined finish rate in their UFC fights to the implied probability of the line of 44.44%, we get a 27% break there, and that 71.4% finish rate for these two guys compared to the 48.62% finish rate for the division is a 23% edge on the books. So this is what we call the trifecta, where we get a positive number here, a positive number here, and a positive number here. And 2 of the positive numbers are over 22%. So the analytics absolutely love the violence bet here. Add to the fact that this is a southpaw versus orthodox matchup and that both of these guys are power strikers. Add to that fact that Bryan Battle has a very sneaky and deadly submission game, and that Sato has been finished by submission in 3 of his 5 pro losses. Add to that fact that Bryan Battle is cutting down to 170 pounds for the first time in his career and could be chinnier and could have an adrenaline dump and could be compromised on his conditioning. It all lines up to being one of my favorite bets of the week. The fight doesn't go to decision for Battle versus Sato, and I'm going to pick Bryan Battle to win this fight by 2nd round submission. Next fight that we're going to break down here is going to be Terrance T-Rex McKinney versus Erick the Ghost Pepper Gonzalez. This is going to be such a fun fight. Now, unfortunately, it's going to be pretty much an unbettable fight because the line has gotten completely blown out. But it's a Terrance McKinney fight. It is going to be chock full of excitement for about as long as it lasts. This fight is probably going to last not even as long as 14-year-olds having sex for the first time. This is how all of McKinney's fights are. You know, it is like a sexual experiment when you're very, very young. It's over quickly. It's very memorable, and it's very exciting. And Terrance McKinney just brings this ridiculous pace, power, wrestling, and chaos to the cage that really makes his fights really hard to replicate. And I can't wait to watch this one, you guys. Let's break down the numbers here. We've got even measurables for these two guys. As we see, McKinney is almost 3 years younger, but it's Gonzalez who has a 1 inch height and a 1 inch reach advantage here. Terrance McKinney fights out of both stances. Gonzalez is an orthodox fighter fighting out of Fight Science, while Terrance McKinney out of Sick Jitsu in the Pacific Northwest. Terrance McKinney has 16 professional fights to 20 for Gonzalez. So I'm giving that experience advantage to Gonzalez overall, but McKinney has the UFC experience advantage. Erick's got 4 more pro fights, almost 130 more minutes in the pro cage, and he's been a fighter for almost 3 more years. McKinney has 3 more fights at the UFC level and 7 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to the finish stats and durability, the finish stats obviously go to McKinney. The durability goes to Gonzalez here, as McKinney has the definition of a killer-be-killed fighter running through his veins. You know, all 16 of his pro fights are finished inside the distance. I think only one of them has went to the 3rd round. Gonzalez has a 64% finish rate as a pro, almost all the finishes coming by way of knockout. Gonzalez has been finished in 3 of 6 pro losses, while McKinney has been finished in all 4 of his pro losses. So I have to give the Gonzalez the durability advantage in this fight. When it comes to the striking numbers, the advantage goes to McKinney. Both of these guys have a ton of power, and they're both trying to kill their opponent. McKinney has shown that he can hang at the UFC level and drop his opponents, while Gonzalez got knocked out by Jim Miller in his debut. Both guys are absorbing almost 3 knockdowns per 15 minutes on the aggregate thus far in small sample sizes, but Terrance is landing 2.42 knockdowns per 15 minutes, while Gonzalez hasn't landed a knockdown yet. In the grappling, the advantage absolutely goes to McKinney. McKinney has 7 career wins by submission, and he's a former state champion wrestler. He can and will use his wrestling to win minutes and is out-controlling his opponents at better than a 7-to-1 ratio, while Gonzalez was out-controlled by almost 2-to-1 by Miller, and he gave up 36.6% control time in that fight. So in my opinion, McKinney has the clear grappling advantage in this fight. When it comes to the strength of schedule, that's Terrance McKinney as well. Just because Terrance has had 4 UFC fights to Gonzalez's 1, both guys have fought solid regional scene competition. Erick Gonzalez fought Milko Tukto. He fought Rafa Garcia, and he fought Humberto Bandone just before getting into the UFC. So he's fought, good regional scene competition. And that's what Terrance McKinney was fighting before he got to the UFC level as well. But look, McKinney's younger. He's a switch stance fighter. He has the UFC experience advantage, the finish stats advantage. I have him with the striking, grappling, and strength of schedule advantages as well. Gonzalez is slightly bigger. He's probably more durable, and he's probably going to have the better conditioning here. When you go back and you watch Gonzalez's fights, this dude gets into wars. And that could really help him here, because if Erick Gonzalez can find 2.5 minutes worth of armor-like durability, if he can find that, if he can find a way to breathe in the chaos that Terrance McKinney's going to bring, to somehow find calm in that tornado that's going to be going around that cage and not get separated from his consciousness, he's going to be live. I think like McKinney might be the most dangerous fighter in the entire UFC for the first 30 seconds of any fight. He is absolutely savage. It could be the 1-2. It could be a big uppercut. It could be a jump knee down the middle. It could be a head kick. Everything that Terrance McKinney throws in the first 30 seconds of a fight has pretty much got like a 33% chance of putting you in the fucking hospital, of separating you from your conscious completely. This guy's power early in a fight is so next level. It just makes me smile even thinking about it. But Gonzalez has been in wars, man. And if he survives the first 2.5 minutes of this fight, I think he might finish McKinney at the end of the first round. That being said, I'm picking Terrance McKinney here. But there's not much we can do, you guys. there's just not much we can do here. The fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at -500 the last I checked. It might even be moving from there. It's not really open anywhere but on Bet Online, and they opened it at -500, and it's been there the entire time. So, that's almost unbettable. But Terrance McKinney has got 16 professional fights, and they've all finished inside the distance. So even though we're paying 83% implied probability, we're getting a 16.7% edge over that implied probability when we combine the fact that all 5 of these guys' UFC fights have finished inside the distance. And with Terrance McKinney, you have a guy who brings hell for 2.5 minutes and then is pretty much done. So it's going to be a wild fight for as long as it lasts. Pick has got to be Terrance McKinney by first round knockout, but that shouldn't surprise. I'm sorry. I'm going to pick him actually to win by first round submission. But that's not surprising, seeing as the guy's like almost a -1,000 favorite on all the books already. So yeah, I'm not telling you guys anything you don't know, but I would be careful about parlaying Terrance McKinney here. And I think that even taking a small shot on Gonzalez round 1 knockout or round 2 knockout for a very small amount of money, you might be able to get a 10-1 shot here, because if he can just find a way to survive and drain McKinney's gas tank without being separated from his consciousness, he's going to be very live after 2.5 minutes of this fight. So very interesting, but I got to pick Terrance McKinney to win this one. What is the next fight that we're going to be looking at? It is going to be, Sam Alvey, Smiling Sam, going up against Michal Oleksiejczuk here. That is going to be a very interesting fight. Smiling Sam coming to the end of his UFC career here. How many fights do we have here for Smiling Sam at this juncture in his career? 52 professional fights for Sam Alvey, 535 minutes in the pro cage. 23 of those 52 fights at the UFC level, and about 230 minutes of UFC cage time in 23 fights. Stand up, Sam Alvey. You are a UFC legend. Do we have that up there? But yeah, big underdog here. Sam hasn't won a fight in a very long time. He's been in a bunch of close fights. He's had some decisions that could have went either way, but he's been unlucky with the judges, and I think it has a lot to do with the way that he fights, his fighting style. Optically, it doesn't look good to the judges, and it's not surprising that he's not getting these nods in close fights. Oleksiejczuk is a dude who comes forward, moves a lot, throws great body punches, uses those good hard body punches to set up shots up top that will knock you out. And he has looked very good lately. Went 3 rounds with Dustin Jacoby in a very close fight. And if he can go 3 rounds with Jacoby in a stand-up war, he can beat the shit out of Sam Alvey at this point in his career. So we see why, he's a -700 favorite here. But let's just take you through the stats, because that's what we're here to do. The measurables are even. Alvey's the slightly bigger man. He's fought at both 205 and 185. He's got a 2-inch height advantage, and he's got a 1-inch reach advantage. Oleksiejczuk is 9 years younger, though, and he's going to be making his debut at 185 in this fight. This is a southpaw versus southpaw matchup, so very interesting stuff. Alvey's not an actual southpaw, but he fights in the southpaw position so that because he's a counter puncher, he wants his right hand up front so that it's closer to the target, and that's what he counters with, is that right hook coming over the jab of his opponent. But he's not going to really be seeing a lot of jabs he probably will be seeing jabs in this fight because it is southpaw versus southpaw. But Oleksiejczuk throws a lot more volume, and he's just a lot more active than Sam Alvey is. Obviously, Alvey has the experience advantage, 30 more pro fights, 400 more minutes in the pro cage, and a pro for 5.5 more years. He's also got the UFC experience advantage with 15 more UFC fights and over 165 more minutes in the UFC cage. I got to give Oleksiejczuk the finish stats advantage and Alvey the durability advantage. Michal has the better finish rates overall, 75% for Michal, 67% for Alvey. And at the UFC level, Michal's finishing 75% of his 4 wins, and Alvey's finishing 60% of his 10 wins. Both guys are primarily knockout dependent, Alvey's been finished less both at the UFC level, 42% to 67% for Oleksiejczuk, and overall, as Alvey's been finishing 36% of his losses, while for Oleksiejczuk it's 80%. Alvey's got a chin on him though, and he's never quit. So I absolutely believe he's the more durable fighter in this contest. Oleksiejczuk though has the striking advantage. Michal has the better metrics at the UFC level. He's got the better significant strike differential, which is positive 0.47 compared to negative 0.27 for Alvey. He's more accurate, 49.5% to 44.5%. He's got more knockdowns per 15 minutes, 1.21 for Oleksiejczuk, 0.46 for Alvey. And he's got the better striking defense, 64.5% for Oleksiejczuk, 53% for Alvey. Alvey's been knocked down 5 times in 23 fights, and he's been knocked out 3 times at the UFC level, while Michal has never been knocked down or out at the UFC level. Grappling advantage is Alvey. Neither one of these guys offensively wrestles much or at all. However, Alvey, over a huge sample size, has shown 82% takedown defense and 14.3% control time allowed over a 230-minute sample size and over 67 takedown attempts. So Michal has 47% takedown defense only, and he's allowing 2.42 takedowns per 15 minutes and 0.73 submission attempts per 15 minutes. So he's been way less defensively responsible in the grappling in comparison to Alvey. The strength of schedule advantage goes to Alvey here, as he has the bigger sample size of UFC fights, and he has the better overall ratio, and in his wins, his ratio is better as well. So Michal's losses are better on the aggregate, but the metrics definitely favor Alvey's wins, and that's more important. But Alvey's bigger, he's more experienced, he's more durable, he's the far better defensive grappler, and he has the strength to schedule advantage. And despite all those advantages, Oleksiejczuk is minus 700 because he's 9 years younger, he's the better finisher, and he's got the striking advantage in this fight, and that might be enough because Sam Alvey doesn't wrestle. 6 takedown attempts in 23 fights. He's only gotten one fucking takedown in his entire UFC career. And if Alvey were smart, he would wrestle here. But there's no evidence whatsoever to suggest that Sam Alvey's going to wrestle anybody to try to win minutes and save his own chin and try to win fights. So if we can't count on Sam Alvey to do that, and it's going to be Oleksiejczuk who has more power, it's going to be Oleksiejczuk who's faster, it's going to be Oleksiejczuk who's throwing more volume, and it's going to be Oleksiejczuk who's going to be pressuring forward. You got to like Michal Oleksiejczuk to get the job done here. He probably gets it done inside the distance, as he's been a really good finisher at this level. And we're seeing that durability start to wane for Sam Alvey. And Oleksiejczuk has finished 3 of his 4 losses or wins at the UFC level. So, yeah, I'm going to pick Michal Oleksiejczuk to win this fight. Surprise, surprise. I'm going to pick him to win it by knockout, and I'll say that he's going to do it in the second round. Probably hurts Alvey to the body to finish him. The next fight is going to be an absolute banger. Ariane Lipski, the queen of violence, versus Priscilla cheating, the top cheater at the UFC level. Eye gouges, fence grabs, foreign objects in the shorts that she pulls out when the referee gets knocked out by a foreign object. Just lying in interviews. Anything that Priscilla cheating can do to get her just a little bit closer to victory, you can count on her to do it. And I'm looking for her to break all the rules on Saturday and try to not just be the more handsome fighter, which she already has laced up. That one is already in the bag. She's more handsome than anybody in the division at this point. If this were a contest, you guys, if we were lining this fight on who's more handsome, it's Cachoeira minus 1,000. But that's not what we're talking about here. The queen of violence is here to fight. Priscilla Cachoeira is here to fight. And that, is, my friends, is what we need to break down here. So let's get into it. Let's find out what we got for the notes here. The measurables advantage goes to Lipski. She's 5 years younger. She's got a 2-inch reach advantage. And Cachoeira has a 1-inch height advantage in this fight, and they're both orthodox fighters. Lipski also has the experience advantage. She's got 6 more professional fights, 85 more minutes in the pro cage, 2.5 more years as a pro fighter, and she also has the slightest of UFC experience advantages with 10 more minutes in the UFC cage and the same amount of fights. I'm going to give Cachoeira the advantage when it comes to the finish stats and the durability here. Lipski has the better finish rate overall as a pro, 64% for Lipski, 55% for Cachoeira. However, Cachoeira has the better finish rate at the UFC level, as she's finished 2 of her 3 wins at the UFC level, while for Lipski, it's 1 of 3. Both fighters have been finished in 2 of 4 UFC losses. Cachoeira has only been submitted, while Lipski has been KO'd twice. Cachoeira has the durability advantage because of the fact that there is no quit in her. She took a horrific ass shaving at the hands of Valentina Shevchenko, and she never gave up. And she tried to fight back like a champ when she was in that rear naked choke from Jillian. Decided to try to gouge an eye out in order to get out of that. That is a fighter who will fight for your money. If you hate cheaters, you hate Priscilla Cachoeira. But if you like women who will fight for your money, you're gonna have her poster on your wall, and you're gonna say, "Look at that hair, look at that, look at those strong features." That's where I'm putting my money behind. So this has been a bit of a fight that's like, got people kind of going back and forth a little bit. Some of these women's fights, they get people talking on Twitter, and I can see there's people on both sides with Edgar and Silva, and I can barely come up with a pick there. I'm picking Granger just because of I'm still mad at Cory McKenna. And then you got Lipski Cachoeira here. It's going to be a good fight. I can't wait. But when it comes to the striking, I'm going to give the advantage to Lipski. She's the cleaner, crisper striker here with the way better Muay Thai pedigree. Cachoeira just kind of walks forward, blocks punches with her face, and she's willing to eat 2 or 3 strikes to land one big one. The problem here is that Lipski has more power than Priscilla. She's landing 0.56 knockdowns per 15 minutes in comparison to 0.21 for Cachoeira. Lipski's significant strike differential is not good at negative 0.57, but Cachoeira cheating is way worse at negative 3.45. Lipski also has the better striking defense, 52% to 46%. I think Ariane should be the better striker here, as long as she can deal with Priscilla's pressure. The grappling advantage also goes to Lipski here. Neither lady's going to wrestle much, if at all. That being said, Lipski has been way more efficient in winning minutes in control time positions than Cachoeira has. Lipski gets out-controlled 31% to 22.5%, while for Cachoeira, it's 30% to 3%. That's too much. So Cachoeira is losing 90% of the control time positions in her fights. So if Cachoeira pressure ever gets to Ariane, she can hold Priscilla against the cage and try to exploit, her 65% takedown defense. Each lady only has 1 takedown in their 7 UFC fights, so neither one is likely to wrestle. But in my opinion, Lipski will be less likely to lose minutes in the grappling here. And Lipski's been training over at ATT. We saw her ground game kind of take that next step in the Mandy Bohm fight. And Bohm's terrible. Of course, Bohm is absolutely awful. So we can't take too much from that performance. Bohm just lost to Victoria Leonardo handily. So that's a big problem. But Lipski is clean in the striking. And she's now starting to put together a little more of a well-rounded game. She got that submission against Luana Carolina. She had some really good wrestling and takedowns in the Bohm fight. So the thing I like about Lipski here is that not only do I think she's the better striker, the cleaner, more powerful, more technical striker that's going to throw more volume in comparison to Cachoeira, but I think she's much better on the ground as well. And I think she's just way more likely, if she ever doesn't like how it's going on the feet, I think she's going to have the capability to take Priscilla down and win minutes there. For strength of schedule, given the slight edge to Cachoeira here, she has the better ratio, the more experienced competition overall. Neither fighter has a really impressive win, so I would call this a very slight edge for Cachoeira, solely based on the metrics. But Lipski's got the measurables. She's got the experience. She's got the striking and the grappling advantage, while Cachoeira is the better finisher. She's more durable, and she's got a slight edge in the strength of schedule. I'm picking Ariane Lipski to win this fight. Priscilla Cachoeira is extremely durable, so I'm looking for Ariane Lipski to win this fight by decision. But I also don't hate, even though I'm picking her to win it by decision, the violence props in this fight are a little bit interesting here, as we've got a trifecta. Positive 1.69%. Now, I think this line is moved, and it might be 135 now. The fight doesn't go to decision at plus 135 instead of plus 155. Now we're overpaying by 1.64% here, but we're still getting a 9.1% edge and a 7.4% edge when we compare the divisional finish rate to the implied probability of the line, and when we compare the finish rate of the two fighters to the implied probability of the line. So it does like violence here. And I could see either one of these fighters getting a finish. I could see Lipski getting a submission. I could see Cachoeira getting a knockout. But the way that I see this fight going is I'm picking Ariane Lipski to win by decision. But some of those numbers there on the prop template do like a violence bet for this fight. All right. We are on the main card now. We're going to be taking a look at Nosferatu, Sergei Spivac taking on Augusto Sakai. So we got Sakai, a big underdog here at plus 222 on Bet Online right now. Sergei, the polar bear Spivac at minus 262. The fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 160 on Bet Online right now. Let me go real quick through this. Good. Okay. So the notes, let me just get a drink here real quick too before we start breaking down these numbers and trying to figure out some angles on this fight. All right. The measurables advantage goes to Spivac here. He's 4 years younger. He's got a 1-inch reach advantage. They're the same height. They're both orthodox fighters. The experience advantage goes to Sakai. He's got 3 more professional fights. He's got 95 more minutes in the pro cage. He's got almost 3 more years as a pro. They have the same amount of UFC fights, and Augusto has 15 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to the finish stats and durability, I'm giving the advantage to Spivac here, as Sergei has the better finish rates, both as a pro, 86% for Spivac, and we see his equal opportunity here at 43% knockout, 43% submission. 73% finish rate by Sakai, all by knockout. At the UFC, they've finished 3 of 5 wins inside the distance. 2 by knockout, 1 by submission for Spivac, 3 by knockout for Sakai. Spivac's been slightly more durable overall, 67% finish rate against to 75% for Sakai. And in the UFC, 67% finish rate against for Spivac, 100% finish rate against for Sakai in his 3 losses. This is a striker versus grappler matchup, plain and simple. Sakai's got decent grappling. Spivac has decent striking, but, this is pretty clear. Sakai wants this fight standing. Spivac wants Sakai's back on the mat, and he wants to be doing work on top. The striking advantage obviously goes to Sakai here. He's not only got the better striking pedigree, but he's the more technical, cleaner, and more powerful striker. And his UFC metrics are better than Spivac's as well. Sakai's got the better significant strike differential, positive 0.8 to positive 0.55 for Spivac. He's got the better accuracy at 51% in comparison to 49.5% for Spivac. He's got more knockdowns per 15 minutes at 0.54 for Sakai. Spivac still hasn't recorded a UFC knockdown in 8 fights. It's just not his game. Let's see. He's thrown about 2 more significant strike attempts per minute than his opponents, while Spivac throws about 0.5 more. So Sakai's out-voluming Spivac. And Sakai should be the better minute and moment winner while this fight is on the feet at striking range. Sakai's got a nasty uppercut. He's got great low leg kicks. He's got a great 1-2 that comes down the middle. Teep kicks to the body. He has got a really diverse array of strikes that he brings. And when he starts walking forward and putting combinations together, he's very, very dangerous. But when it comes to the grappling, that's Spivac all day. Spivac is the grappler in this striker versus grappler matchup. He's 4-0 in the UFC when Sergei Spivac gets a takedown. And he's never gotten less than 3 takedowns in any fight where he got one, right? So Sergei is spending over 50% of his UFC cage time in control time positions for or against, while for Sakai, it's just over 20%. So Sakai is clearly less comfortable in the grappling exchanges than Spivac is. Sergei's getting 3.29 takedowns per 15 minutes, and he's averaging 35% control time for. So he's very good at winning minutes and moments on the ground. In the 4 fights where Sergei has takedowns, he's finished 3 of those 4 fights. The only one he didn't finish was the Felipe fight. And Sergei had almost 4.5 minutes of control time in round 3 of that fight, and he landed over 100 strikes in round 3 alone. So he was very close to finishing that fight as well. Long story short, Sergei takes you down and you're pretty much fucked. That's just how it goes. Sakai really struggled with the ground game in the Overeem fight, yielding 3 takedowns on 3 attempts and getting finished on the ground. So the path for a ground and pound victory for Spivac is definitely there. The strength of schedule advantage goes to Sakai. He's got the better metrics overall, 1.44 overall ratio compared to 1.36 for Sergei Spivac. He's got the better total fights, 13.13 compared to 9.75 for Spivac. The wins are close, as Sakai has had the better total fights, 13.4 to 9, while Spivac's wins have been the better ratio, 1.65 to 1.39. The common opponents are Marcin Tybura and Tai Tuivasa. Sakai knocked out Tybura in the first round, while Spivac lost the decision to Tybura. But Spivac finished Tai Tuivasa in the second round, and Tai finished Augusto Sakai in the second round. So they each have beaten a guy that the other guy has lost to. Sakai has been scheduled for 5-round fights in 2 of his last 3 fights. So I'd say he has the strength to schedule advantage here, and he's definitely got more 5-round experience. Spivac's got the measurables, the finish stats, the durability, and the grappling advantages in this fight, while Sakai has the experience advantage, the striking advantage, and the strength of schedule. This is a fascinating fight for me because the path to make Sergei Spivac a minus 250 favorite is definitely there. This guy, if he gets a takedown at the UFC level, he's undefeated. He's 4-0 in fights where he gets a takedown. And that means with his record being 5-3, right? That means he's 1-3 when he doesn't get a takedown. And Augusto Sakai just got murdered the only fight that he spent any time on the ground, and that was the Overeem fight. Other than that, people aren't even really trying to take him down. I think 9 of these 14 takedown attempts that Augusto Sakai has faced at the UFC level came in his Contender Series match against a guy who was basically a 205-pound fighter who was just fighting up a weight class. This was a heavyweight fight. I think this dude weighed in at 212. I'm not even joking. And we're just going to take a look through the advanced stats here. So it's Sakai, the Marcus Conrado Jr. fight, right? Conrado Jr. attempted 7 takedowns in this fight. So if you throw out that fight against what was a guy that was essentially a light heavyweight, Sakai's been taken out 4 times on 7 attempts. They were in these 2 fights here, right? This was against Alistair Overeem and then against Blagoy Ivanov. Ivanov took him down but wasn't able to do much with him. Overeem took him down in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds. And in the 5th round, as soon as he took him down right at the beginning of the round, he landed a big shot on the ground, and Herb Dean had to step in because Sakai was in all kinds of trouble. And he just wasn't able – he had nothing on the ground once Overeem got on top of him. So – but Sergei still has to be the one to go get that takedown. And he's going to have to get it. If he doesn't, Sakai's probably knocking him out on the feet. So I think Augusto Sakai is actually live here, but I got to pick Sergei Spivac to win this fight. I think that this fight does finish inside the distance. It's another one where the line is just way off. in comparison to the stats that we have. This line moved to minus 160. I believe it's still there on Bet Online. And we've got a trifecta here. When we compare the 63.67% finish rate of the heavyweight division to the 61.54% implied probability of a minus 160 line, we're getting a 2.13% edge there. 11 of 16 combined UFC fights for Spivac and Sakai have finished inside the distance. That's 68.8%. When we compare that to the divisional finish rate of 63.67%, we're getting a 5.1% edge. And when we compare that 68.8% compared to the 61.54% implied probability of a minus 160 line, we're getting a 7.2% edge. 2.13 plus 5.1 plus 7.2 makes 14.4% edge we get on the books if we add up those three numbers. So that's another bet that I'm liking for this week. The fight doesn't go to decision for Spivac Sakai. Either this fight goes to the ground and Spivac's going to be beating the hell out of Sakai and finishing him there, or he can't get it to the ground and Sakai is going to be able to work his stand-up and striking game, and he probably lands a big uppercut and knocks out Spivac. So stylistically, I like it. The data likes violence in this spot, and it's a heavyweight fight. They're finishing inside the distance almost 65% of the time on the aggregate. So loving that bet. All right, let's move on to the next fight. It is going to be Brogan Walker, otherwise known as Brogy Bear, fighting against Julianna Miller. Brogan is minus 105, Julianna Miller minus 115. Fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at plus 250 for this fight. Let me get this up here. All right. A little more beverage. Okay. Yeah, so we've got these are the Ultimate Fighter finale fights. We got 63 of you guys rocking live with your Uncle Weezy here on a Tuesday night. I'd like to thank each and every one of you guys for hanging out live, breaking down these fights with me. Make sure you leave a like. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe. If you haven't subscribed to the MMA Engine channel, got to check out Probability over there, doing Dana White Contender Series breakdowns over there. DFS by the Numbers, Lou Betya, Monk Maddox, myself, all putting in a lot of work on that channel. Go check that out as well. But we've got Brogy Bear against Julianna Miller here for the Ultimate Fighter finale, 125 pounds. It is going to be a grappler in Julianna Miller against largely a striker in Brogan Walker. The measurables advantage goes to Miller here. Both of these ladies have the same reach, but it's Miller who's 6 years younger and 3 inches taller. Walker's a southpaw. In the experience, the advantage goes to Brogan Walker. She's got 6 more pro fights. She's got 90 more minutes in the pro cage and 4.5 more years as a pro. The finish stats and the durability, the advantage goes to Miller. Even though it's a much smaller sample size, Miller has a 100% finish rate in her 2 pro wins, both by submission. Walker only has a 14% finish rate in her 7 pro wins. Neither lady's ever been finished. We don't really have any striking or grappling stats here, but the advantage in striking is going to go to Walker. Walker has a Muay Thai base and is definitely the striker in this striker versus grappler matchup. Julianna is still young and inexperienced, but she relies on her grappling to win fights. While Brogan has good kicks and does a good job using kicks to maintain distance, she mostly lands her hands when her opponent lunges too far in. But otherwise, she's mostly dependent on landing kicks in order to land strikes. In the grappling, it's Miller. Miller is her, got a grappling base. Her takedowns have mostly come from body lock trips. She advances position on the ground. She finished Caitlin Neal by Kimura, and she has 2 submission wins in her 3 fights prior to being in the house. So it's going to be Brogan Walker trying to keep this fight standing, and it's going to be Julianna Miller pressuring, but she's sloppy in the stand-up. But she walks forward. She's super gritty. She's super tough. And I've seen her get that body lock a couple of different times in order to get the fight to the ground. And once she gets you on the ground, you're in her world. She's been in a lot of grappling competitions. Grappling is definitely her base. But we've seen Brogan Walker in the house stop a lot of takedowns. She fought Laura Gallardo in order to get to this fight. And Gallardo's an excellent wrestler. Was not able to get Brogan Walker down, even though Brogan was dealing with a little bit of a knee injury while she was in the house. So she wasn't even 100%. But, when we break down the strength of schedule, it's the advantage goes to Walker all day. The three ladies Miller fought prior to being in the Tough House had a combined record of 2 wins and 5 losses. Walker has fought names like Erin Blanchfield, Pearl Gonzalez, Miranda Maverick. So Walker not only has more experience, but she's fought the much better level of competition. She beat Hannah Guy and Laura Gallardo in the house, while Miller beat Claire Guthrie and Caitlin Neal. So she's now 1-1 against Guthrie because Guthrie has got a decision win against Julianna Miller before they were in the house. So Miller's got the measurables, the finish stats, and the grappling advantages. Walker has the experience, striking, and strength of schedule advantages here. I'm liking Brogy Bear in this spot. I don't think Julianna Miller's wrestling or ability to be able to get the fight into the ground is good enough to make me think that she's going to be able to win enough minutes there to win a decision in this fight or get the fight to the ground and lock up a submission. So I think that Brogan Walker can keep this fight on the feet. I think while it's on the feet, Brogan Walker will be the minute winner here. And I think that her takedown defense and her experience will carry her through here, help her through those nerves of the UFC debut. And I'm predicting Brogan Walker to win this fight by decision. Julianna Miller, a small favorite here. She looked great in the house, a super scrappy girl. Looking forward to seeing her get some more experience. But Brogan's the better striker. She's fought the better competition. She's more experienced. And the size is actually pretty similar here, too. So definitely going with Brogan Walker to win this one by decision. The next fight is Kamaru Usman's brother, Muhammad Usman, going to be fighting against Zach Pauga. And let me get this on the screen. We got Muhammad Usman as a plus 210 underdog to Pauga, who's minus 250. The fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 125. So if I get my notes up on the screen here, the measurables advantage goes to Usman. He's 1 year younger. He's 2 inches taller, and he has a 1-inch reach advantage. All of Pauga's fights pre-Tough House were at 205 pounds, and it honestly looks like Pauga can make 185. Usman will definitely be the bigger, stronger dude with the natural frame for the weight class here. So measurables advantage, Usman. Experience advantage, Usman. He's got 4 more pro fights over 3 more years as a pro. So he's definitely more experienced. The finish stats and the durability, Usman is the better finisher here, as he's got stopped 5 of his 7 wins inside the distance, 3 by knockout, 2 by submission. Pauga only has 1 finish in 5 wins. Usman has been subbed in 1 of 2 pro losses, and Pauga's never lost. So definitely giving that finish stats advantage to Usman. In terms of the durability, it's kind of hard to know because we haven't seen Pauga put in a lot of bad spots yet. The striking advantage I'm giving to Pauga. I think Pauga is the faster striker. He throws decent volume, while Muhammad's kind of stiff, but he throws decent volume too. He's mostly hands, and he does have heavyweight power. Pauga throws a more diverse attack, as he tends to mix in a lot more kicks than Usman. Both guys are athletic, but I think Pauga's speed and movement make him the more likely minute winner in the stand-up exchanges, while Usman is stronger and the more natural heavyweight should be the moment winner. And I've seen Pauga get dropped on the regional scene at 205, so either of these guys landing a big shot is a possibility. It's a heavyweight fight. The grappling advantage I'm giving to Usman. I've seen Usman use his grappling more on the regional scene in comparison to Pauga. I've seen both guys get takedowns, and Pauga has good wrestling too, but I've seen Muhammad get almost 13 minutes of ground control time against a striker on the regional scene. So I think Usman will be the more willing wrestler here. The difference here is that Usman is the true heavyweight. He's the bigger, stronger man, and he brings really good conditioning to the table for a heavyweight. So I think Muhammad will be the more likely guy to use his wrestling and win minutes with it. That being said, we didn't see either guy in the house go to their wrestling at all, so this could be mostly a stand-up fight. The strength of schedule advantage goes to Pauga, even though he has less fights. Muhammad Usman's opponents had a combined record of 34 wins and 30 losses, at the time he fought them. While for Pauga, it's 23 wins and only 9 losses. Plus, Pauga had 5 amateur fights prior to going pro. So I got Usman with the measurables advantage because he's the natural heavyweight, the experience advantage, the finish stats, and the grappling advantage here, while Pauga's got the striking and the strength of schedule advantages. So, it's a heavyweight fight. And Zach is not spectacular anywhere. I like Usman's conditioning better than I like Pauga's. So, this is a fight where I've placed a bet on Muhammad Usman, 1 unit at plus 200 way earlier in the week. I didn't think it was going to get blown out any more than this. I think Pauga wins this fight. I'm going to pick Pauga to win this fight by decision. However, I just think that this line doesn't make any sense. Pauga's less experienced. He's a lot smaller. He's not as good of a grappler. He doesn't even really have a conditioning edge here. And Muhammad's just been around longer, and I think he's going to have the power edge too in the striking. I've seen him land some big shots against heavyweights, and I think if he lands a couple of the shots that I've seen him land on the regional scene against these big natural heavyweights, and he lands something like that on Pauga, that Pauga's going to be in a lot of trouble. And if Muhammad is able to get this fight to the ground, he's going to be very difficult to get off of you. The dude is a slab of marble. So there's a lot of reasons to like Muhammad Usman here, and I think that this fight's just going to play out a lot closer than people seem to think it is. I'm going to pick Zach Pauga to win this fight in a greasy decision, but the bet is Muhammad Usman at plus 200, and you can do better than your Uncle Weezy did and get him right now at plus 210. I think it's a good look. I'm happy with that bet. I'm happy with the Miranda Granger at plus 202 bet as well. I think that these fights are going to play out a lot closer than what the lines say they are. So, yeah, the pick is Pauga. The bet is Usman. Co-main event is going to be an absolute slobber knocker. Can't wait for this fight. Vicente, the silent assassin, Luque against Jeff, Hands of Steel, Neal. It's Luque who's the minus 186 favorite here. The comeback on Neal plus 161. Fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 140. So in this one, I've got the measurables being even. Both fighters are the same height. Both fighters are the same reach, and they're only a year apart. Neal's a southpaw. Luque's an orthodox fighter. The experience advantage goes to Luque, though. He's got 12 more pro fights. He's got 120 more minutes in the pro cage. He's also got 3 more years as a pro. And Luque also has the UFC experience advantage with 9 more UFC fights and 75 more minutes in the UFC cage. The finish stats and durability I'm also giving to Luque here, as Vicente has the better finish rates overall compared to Neal. He's got a 90% finish rate, does Vicente Luque, in his 14 wins, while it's 71% for Jeff Neal. And also at the UFC level, actually, Luque finishes at a higher rate in the UFC than he did outside of it. He's got a 93% finish rate in his 14 UFC wins, while Neal's got a 71% finish rate. And Luque's been subbed twice in 8 pro losses, both of them pre-UFC, while Neal's been knocked out once and subbed once in 4 pro losses, but they were both pre-UFC as well. Neither one of these guys has ever been finished at the UFC level. In the striking, the advantage goes to Luque. Luque's got the better significant strike differential, positive 0.12 compared to negative 0.24 for Neal. The striking accuracy goes to Luque, 53% to 50% for Neal. The power numbers are very similar, but lean Neal, and Jeff's striking defense is much better, 62% for Neal, while it's 53% for Luque. Luque will trust his chin. He does not have a problem eating one to give one. When it comes to the grappling, I'm going to give the advantage to Jeff Neal, and here's why. Neither one of these guys grapples much. Both have only 1 takedown for every 3 fights they've been in at the UFC level, and both average right around 0.5 takedowns per 15 minutes. But it's Neal who does a better job of not losing minutes on the ground. Luque has allowed 20% control time against on 19 takedowns allowed, while Neal has only allowed 4% control time against on 4 takedowns allowed. Neal's got an 86% takedown defense compared to only 61% for Luque. So while neither guy wins a lot of control time positions, Neal does just a way better job of not losing control time positions. In the strength of schedule, I'm giving a slight advantage here to Luque. If we get over to these stats here, we can see that Luque's got the better ratio, 2.15 compared to 1.81 for Neal, while Neal's fighting the more experienced brand of competition. And when we stack up the wins side by side, 1.95 for Luque, 1.65 for Neal, and 9.29 total fights for Luque, 8.71 for Neal. So a little bit better wins for Luque, so I'm giving Luque the strength of schedule advantage. Both of these guys are losing the studs with better than 2-to-1 win-to-loss ratios at the UFC level. So they've both fought really good competition and beaten really good competition. But it's Luque who has the experience advantage, the finish stats advantage, the striking, and the strength of schedule advantages, while Neal has the grappling advantage here. This is a great fight. And Luque is a guy who I wish was a little bit more defensively responsible, because I think that Geoff Neal is very live, especially at this current line, to make the Luque bettors cry here. Luque just is not a great minute winner. He's just not. And that's a problem. You want minute winners when you're laying juice, because if you're finish dependent, especially against a guy in Neal who's been out there, you look at who Neal's fighting, right? Nico Price, Mike Perry, Stephen Thompson, Santiago Ponzinibbio. These guys are finishers, okay? They're all finishers. And he's lasting with them. He's winning again. He's knocking out guys like Price and Perry. So this is going to be a problem for Vicente Luque. If he's going to be finish dependent against a guy who's never been finished at the UFC level and fought just as good of finishers as Vicente Luque, it's going to come down to who wins minutes here. And, Neal is probably the guy who can win the minutes in the grappling exchanges. I've seen him go for takedowns a little bit more often recently, and he's got a ton of power. Now, we always worry about the power of Vicente Luque, but you look at the numbers here, right? Luque, 0.91 knockdowns per 15 minutes. That's excellent, but Geoff Neal's better. 1.14% of the significant strikes that Luque lands result in a knockdown. Neal's better. It's 1.44%. So I worry that laying juice on Vicente Luque is a bad idea, because I think that this is going to be very close as to who wins the minutes. And I'm not sure either one of these guys is really going to be a big moment winner in this fight. Both of these guys are very durable. Both of these guys can take a punch, and they've both been in there with guys that have a lot of power and rely on finishes to win. So I think that this fight is going to play out very, very close. I would recommend not to lay juice on Vicente Luque. If I'm betting Luque, I think he's finishing. And Luque inside the distance is plus 155, but he's minus 187. See, that's a big deal, because you're talking about a guy who's finished 93% of his 14 wins, 13 of 14 UFC wins inside the distance. He's won one decision. That's scary when you're laying minus 187, minus 190. If you don't have faith in the guy's ability to win decisions, and he's fighting a durable fighter who's been in there against other guys who have made this very close. I'm going to go the other way on this one. I'm going to pick Geoff Neal to win this fight. I'm going to pick him to win it by decision. I think it's going to be very close, and I'm going to be looking to get maybe plus 162, maybe throw a half unit on it, because I think that this fight's going to play out a lot closer than people think. Geoff Neal's heart problems do worry me a little bit, and he hasn't really won since, or I think he did get the win against Ponzinibbio in the last fight, but other than that, he's been on a bit of a losing streak. So it's going to be interesting to see if he's fully recovered from the health problems that he did have. But Geoff Neal's win against Ponzinibbio here, and then he lost to Magny, and he lost to Thompson, but both of those guys were excellent minute winners. And then he beat the moment winners in Price and Perry and even beat a great minute winner in Bilal Muhammad, a guy that just beat a guy that's got a 1-1 record against Vicente Luque, a unanimous decision win. He landed 71 strikes and Muhammad landed 63 and was 0 for 7 on takedowns. And you look at that, 4 of 28 his opponents have been on takedowns. So he's done just a fantastic job of shutting down people's grappling game, landing big shots, and winning minutes against good strikers like Ponzinibbio. So the pick is going to be Jeff Neal, and I'm going to pick him to win by decision, which brings us to the main event. The main event, Jamal Sweet Dreams Hill against Thiago Marreta Santos. What does Marreta mean? It means sledgehammer, and he's got a big one tattooed on his chest. Used to have that crazy power at the UFC level, did Thiago Santos. Is it still there? Is it still with him? We're going to have to wait until Saturday to find out, because these guys are going to stand in front of each other and somebody's probably getting knocked out. Very excited for this main event, but it's going to be Jamal Hill that's got this measurables advantage here. He's 2 inches taller. He's got a 3-inch reach advantage. He's a southpaw, and he's 7 years younger than Thiago Santos. So it's just a huge measurables advantage all the way around here for Santos. And then, for Hill. But it's Santos who's going to have this experience advantage here. As we can see, 20 more professional fights, 202 more minutes in the pro cage, almost 7 more years as a pro fighter, 16 more fights at the UFC level, and 170 more minutes in the UFC cage. So this is a huge advantage in experience for Santos. The finish stats and durability, I'm giving the advantage to Santos as well. Santos has the better finish rates overall. 73% for Santos here, 68% by knockout, 5% by sub, and it's a 55% finish rate for Jamal Hill, all of it by knockout. And at the UFC level, it's a 79% finish rate, all by knockout for Santos, a 67% finish rate, all by knockout for Hill. Both of these guys, knockout artists. Hill has been finished in his only pro loss when he dislocated his elbow against Paul Craig. Santos has been finished in 5 of 9 UFC losses and 6 of 10 pro losses. He's lost 3 by submission, 3 by knockout, and in those 9 losses, it's 3 subs and 2 knockouts at the UFC level for Santos. In the striking advantage obviously goes to Jamal Hill. He's pretty much a pure striker thus far at the UFC level, because over 90% of his fights are taking place standing, and he's never attempted a takedown in 7 UFC fights over 40 minutes in the UFC cage. So Hill has a crazy striking differential at positive 3.35 significant strikes per minute more than he lands than his opponents. And Santos is positive 1.47, so he's also very good. Hill is more accurate, 51% compared to Santos's 48%. And he's better power numbers, 1.48 knockdowns per 15 minutes for Jamal Hill, while it's 0.99 for Santos. Hill's never been knocked down in the UFC, while Santos has been dropped 3 times in 23 UFC fights, averaging out to 0.21 knockdowns allowed per 15 minutes. Santos has the better striking defense at 55% compared to 46% for Jamal Hill. The grappling advantage definitely goes to Thiago Santos, but neither guy grapples much at all. The last time Santos uses grappling to win minutes was against Kevin Holland back in 2018. It was Holland's debut in the UFC. Santos got 3 takedowns and 577 seconds of control time. The most time he ever got other than that in 23 fights was 199 seconds against another notoriously easy guy to control on the ground in Anthony Smith. So other than the Holland fight, he's never gotten more than 1 takedown in any UFC fight. So even though Santos is more likely to offensively grapple here, the likelihood that he will do so with any success or commitment, that's just not likely to happen. The strength of schedule advantage goes to Santos. He's fought, beaten, and lost to the better win-loss ratio and more experienced UFC competition. This is a step up for Hill for sure. The common opponent is Johnny Walker. Hill KO'd Walker in the first easily, while Santos won a 5-round decision against him. So Hill has got significant measurables advantage in this fight. He's got the striking advantage. Santos has got the experience advantage, the finish stats advantage, and the durability, and the strength of schedule advantage, and the slight grappling edge here. But I don't think the grappling edge comes into it at all. And Santos is 38 years old, going on 39 here at the beginning of the new year. 2 reconstructed knees, 3 dog shit performances in a row. Look, it's really hard to have faith in a guy that hasn't had a decent fight in a very long time. His last win came against Johnny Walker. Where in 25 minutes he landed 44 significant strikes. I mean, that's just terrible. And I mean, compared to what Jamal Hill did to Johnny Walker, it's not even close. And then he lost to Ankalaev in a 25 minutes of nothing. Lost to Rakic, 15 minutes of nothing. Got subbed by Glover Teixeira, and he lost to the greatest of all time, John Jones. We have to go back to 2019. 3.5 years ago, the last time that this guy even had a decent performance and knocked somebody out, and that was in the 3rd round. So, yeah, it's Santos looks like a shell of his old self, and Jamal Hill looks like an absolute killer. So, I mean, I've got to pick Jamal Hill to win this fight. He wins it inside the distance, probably in round number 1. Santos doesn't want to be there. He fights like somebody who doesn't want to be there, like somebody who's going to show up, do as little as possible, and then hopefully his opponent will do as little as possible, and he'll have a 50% chance for the judges to hand him a decision. But that's not the way Jamal Hill is fighting at this point in his career. Jamal Hill is 31 years old. His trajectory is headed straight up. He's on his way to challenging for a title here. And Thiago Santos is a stepping stone that's in his way. It's a 38-year-old stepping stone with very, very little explosiveness left, very little desire left. And it just looks like he doesn't want to fight. And that's something that I've never seen in Jamal Hill. In addition to that, I love Jamal Hill's conditioning. This guy's fought 5 rounds before. His last fight against Walker was scheduled for 5 rounds. So even though Santos has a lot more experience at the UFC level going 5 rounds, and he will go the full 5 as he did against Walker and Ankalaev, but the output from Santos in those 10 rounds of fighting is going to be 1 round of output from Jamal Hill. And Jamal Hill turns up the pace as he goes later on in the fight. There's really nothing to like about Thiago Santos here. Maybe he catches Jamal Hill with a lucky shot, but it would be just that, a lucky shot. And I don't like his chances to land a lucky shot at the age of 38 against somebody as young, hungry, and as good a technical striker as Jamal Hill is. So I'm picking Jamal Hill to win this fight by 2nd round knockout. We did it, you guys. We broke down all 12 fights on this card. And let's see, we've got quite a few of you here in the main room. I've got 64 of you still hanging out with me here. I appreciate each and every one of you. Let's get into the tracked bets that I have for UFC Vegas 59 thus far, and there are 4 of them. I've taken 2 underdog shots on fights that I think are going to be much closer than what the line is saying, and I'm thinking about taking 2 more underdog shots in Jeff Neal and Augusto Sakai, where that line is just getting a little bit too crazy. But the first one was Muhammad Usman, 1 unit plus 200 against Zach Pauga. I think that fight's going to be close, and I like that plus 200 number that I'm getting there. Miranda Granger's money line at plus 202. After that last performance against Elise Reed, I don't know how Cory McKenna will be favored against anybody in the women's strawweight division. It makes no sense to me. I don't even know where she's better than Granger. I know that she was a better grappler than Elise Reed, and she showed absolute horseshit fight IQ in that fight. So she's got a lot to prove here. She's got to prove that she can start making better decisions in the cage and fight to her strengths. But I think there's just a lot less strengths for her in this fight against Granger because McKenna's going to be smaller. She's not as good of an athlete. She's slower, and she's not much of a wrestler. Granger does get taken down a lot, but she's tall. She's got really good Brazilian jiu-jitsu, long limbs, and she could be threatening with submissions from the bottom, even if Cory does bother to wrestle this time. So I think that's going to be a very close fight. I think people are getting caught up in narrative bullshit. Well, Miranda just had a baby. Dude, Julianna Pena just had a baby a few years ago. It didn't stop her from shaving the woman's ass, who's the greatest of all time, their last time out. Styles make fights. And I think that Cory McKenna's ceiling is very low at the UFC level with her size, with her lack of speed and athleticism, and lack of good decision making. The next one is 1.5 units on the Spivac Sakai fight doesn't go to decision. We talked about that. That was a trifecta bet. It's underpriced. And as a matter of fact, the under 2.5 is minus 165, and you can get the fight doesn't go to decision at minus 160. So there's an inversion in the market, or at least there was when this show started. So I love that Spivac Sakai minus 150, 1.5 units. I got that. The analytics love that bet, and the analytics love the Battle Sato fight doesn't go to decision at plus 125 for 1.5 units. So those are the tracked bets thus far. You can always check out my track bets at betmma.tips/Uncle Weezy. You can find me there. You can always see what I'm betting. Which leaves us now with just one more order of business left. It's Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. Who's going to get their ass shaved this week? We've been on a bit of a rough stretch here. It's not even really a bit of a rough stretch. It's been a bad stretch here. I've been on TJ Brown. That was awful. He had a terrible performance. I bet on Dante O'Mays to win inside the distance. I mean, he had him beat and then walked away, showed piss poor decision making. I think last week I got it wrong. I don't even remember who it was, but I know that they shat the bed. Oh, Mason Jones didn't even show up for the Ludovic Klein fight. Lost to a featherweight. I mean, unbelievable. So we got to get it right this week. And there were some spots that I was looking at, but look, you guys, I can't give you Terrance McKinney. He's minus 1,000, right? And I told you guys a long time ago that I'm not doing women anymore. Last week it was going to be Amanda Nunes, but she's female, so I couldn't pick her, and I wound up picking Dante O'Mays' sorry ass. And I'm not going back to picking women because it screwed me last week, because the women's fights have far too much variance. We can just never really seem to be sure about what's going to happen in them. So that I can't even pick Silva Avegar. I can't even pick McKenna Granger. I can't even pick Lipski Cachoeira, and I can't even pick Brogy Bear and Miller. So, Santos Hill, that's a fight. It could be Luke Neal. It could be Usman Pauga. It could be Sakai Spivac. Alvey Oleksiejczuk, can't do it. Oleksiejczuk's minus 700. You don't need me to tell you he's going to win. McKinney Gonzalez can't do it. Bryan Battle, just too inexperienced. And he's cutting down to 170 for the first time in his career. So not willing to do that. I got to see him on the scale before I can be confident that he's going to look good at 170. So I can't pick Bryan Battle. What about Josh Quinlan, though? He's hopped up on goofballs, taking steroids, right? He's knocking dudes into the shadow realm. Jason Witt has got knocked out by a lukewarm shower in the last week, so I don't know how he can actually last in there with Quinlan. Should be standing up, but this guy's recently off the juice. He's only got 6 pro fights. His last victory came against a guy who is just as inexperienced as him, but who had to take the fight on 3 days' notice. And then even Quinlan against some of these regional scene guys has taken him to the 3rd round to get these guys out of there. So, I mean, as good as I think Quinlan is and as explosive as I know he is, I think Jason Witt might be able to take this dude down and grind him out for the full 15. So I can't even pick him. Can't pick Gonzalez. Can't pick Oleksiejczuk. It's too wide. Not picking a woman here. So what do? It's either Sergei Spivac or it's Jamal Hill. What do we do? What do we do, you guys? We got Goots in the room. We got Victor De Jesus, my man, saying Hill all day. Justin Villegas saying, okay, maybe not an ass shaving. There's no hair anywhere. Maybe just an ass rub. Yeah, okay. I'm not doing women anymore either, says Dante O'Mays bet on Hamdi and realized it mid-fight. Yeah. Oh, Weezy, come back. The ladies are nice. Fade, catch a beating. I'm doing that. Yeah, man. I'm turning your track bets into a greasy 4-legger, says my guy Mushroom. It's not bad, man. Yeah, but you know what, man? Prince Mischief says Quinlan's the ass shaving, but I just can't do it. I think all the tools are there. But it's like he's the least experienced, second least experienced fighter on this whole damn card. The second least. And I got to bet him to be the guy in Witt who's been around. He's got like almost 30 pro fights, who's a really good wrestler. It's Jamal Hill, you guys. It's Jamal Hill. Jamal Sweet Dreams Hill. I just, Thiago hasn't shown us anything lately. And what has Jamal Hill shown us? He's shown us that if I see somebody fighting Jamal Hill that I know probably isn't going to take him down and win minutes on the ground, I got to believe that Jamal Hill is going to absolutely destroy who's ever in front of him. And when it's a 38-year-old guy who seems to be on his way out, who's coming off of several lackluster performances where it doesn't even look like he wants to be in there, where he's waiting for his opponent, I think Jamal Hill is going to drown this dude. I think he's going to put volume and pace on him. I think it's just a matter of time before he finds that big shot. He's just got to be aware of the counter coming back his way, because Santos never leads the dance anymore. He's just looking to counter. So I know that Jamal Hill, being as skilled, as technical of a stand-up boxer as he is, he's going to find his way in. He's going to know what Santos's best attacks are, set up the defense for those, work that defense, and then have his own offense behind it. It's going to be Jamal Hill getting this dude out of there probably in the second round with a big knockout. That's Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. That's 12 fights broken down for UFC Vegas 59. 4 track bets on the table for you guys. You might be saying, where's the greasy four-legger, Weezy? Well, then I would ask you guys, where's all the props? DraftKings, what are you doing? FanDuel, what are you doing? Bet Online, what are you doing? Get it together. Let's get these props out so your Uncle Weezy can give you a greasy four-legger. So here's what we're going to do. Tomorrow, 6 o'clock Central Time, Pub Sports Radio. We're going to do the DFS show with DFS by the Numbers, with my man Gordo Gambles, and with Monk Maddox. And then at 10:30 tomorrow night, Central Time, after the Club and Sub podcast, your Uncle Weezy's going to go live for Ask Weezy so that you can ask me any questions that you have about any of the 12 fights on this card. We can go through the prop template. We can go through the database. We can sort stats, and we can give you some angles, answer some questions that you might have about any of the 24 fighters on the UFC Vegas 59 card, figure out ways to place some winning bets on those fights. And then somewhere around there, after these props start to drop, you'll be getting a short video on my channel, Uncle Weezy's Greasy Four-Legger for UFC Vegas 59. We're going to cash one this week. We're going to get all 4 legs this week. But thank you guys for hanging out here on Just the Tip on Tuesday night. Almost 70 of you guys hanging out here live, late night after the Contender Series. I appreciate each and every one of you guys for hanging out on Tuesday night with me, your host, Uncle Weezy. And the only thing left to do, you guys, is to stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 59. God bless each and every one of you guys, and I will see you tomorrow on Pub Sports Radio at 6 o'clock, and I'll see you tomorrow right here on Uncle Weezy's channel for Ask Weezy at 10:30 Central Time. Good night, everybody.